Good boy. Great. Got some people coming in right now, so we'll give them a couple minutes and then we'll get started, everybody. I like your plane, Bruce, in the background. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's actually, it's not my plane, but it is a picture of a plane. So I just be very specific.
Yeah, I gotcha. I got you. Okay, we've got lots of people falling in right now, so that's good. I do want to get us kicked off soon because I know we've got a lot of great content. So thank you, everybody that's here, for joining us on how to get high margins and develop recurring income opportunities as an MSP. I'm Tanya Gentry. I'm your host today, and we have a great speaker that I'm super excited for you to see. Let me go ahead and I'm going to actually read your bio here that I've got sent by your team. Bruce McCulley is going to be doing the webinar today, and I'm sure many of you know Bruce, but he is the world's leading authority on how MSPs can successfully generate recurring revenue by leveraging third-party security and cyber compliance assessment services. Bruce grew his own MSP business from 0 to 8.5 million. I can attest to that. He was our MSP until he sold the business in January of 2020 and then launched Galactic Advisors. It's a technology and a service company that enables hundreds of MSPs, I'd say probably now thousands really, to replicate his proven formula for success with training, sales support, content resources, and turnkey assessment services that's ideal for generating both passive income and upselling opportunities. So I'm so excited because he's a good friend of mine, Bruce McCulley. Bruce, take it away.
Gosh, that is a great intro. Thank you so much, Tanya. And guys, welcome. We're talking about building more revenue. So it's something really exciting, something that all of us are interested in, especially when we're looking at the end of the year. So think about it. It's the end of the year. You guys have 60 days left. And when you look at it from that perspective, where you should really be focusing is annual recurring revenue or monthly recurring revenue, however you measure it. Ultimately, what you want to be thinking about is how do I get more recurring revenue? Because whatever you sell today is already sold for next year. And so even if your goals are a shit mess and you're totally off track, it happens. I mean, I ran an MSP. I get it. But focus on the ARR and end strong with annual recurring revenue. That's the key. And when I was running my MSP, I have to tell you, November, December, biggest months ever for sales. And that's exactly what we want to dig into. I want to talk about sales today. And specifically, I want to talk about MSP growth versus MSSP growth. So if you look at it, and I don't have a slide for this, I'm just going to be talking a lot. Sorry, guys. But if you look at it, MSP growth over the next 5 years is projected to be around 46%. Okay, 46% over the next 5 years. Okay, so that means if you're not growing by 46%, 40%, you're kind of falling behind. So get to it, get some marketing in place, start working with the folks on Tanya's team and get all that stuff together. That's a key piece. But also, I want you to look at the other side of the coin. MSSP growth, that's 183%. 183%. Now think about those two numbers. What should you be selling? Well, the answer is security. So we're going to talk about specifically selling security services and how to make that happen. Before we get into all that, though, I have a question for you. And Tanya's going to send a poll out right now. The question is, how many of you are taking prescription medications? How many are taking a supplement or some sort of drug? How many of you got up this morning and took one of those? I'm just curious. And the reason I'm curious, the reason I think this is very interesting is if you take a look at growth, right? We talked about MSP growth and we talked about MSSP growth, but let's talk about a different type of growth. Let's talk about big pharma for a second. 278% growth. They're killing MSSP growth. And the question that I would be asking myself is, what the hell are they doing? And how can we use those same methods? Because ultimately there's a lot of overlap. So how do we make that happen? And the big question that you're going to want to start with, if you're going to go down this path, is you're going to want to figure out who's selling all those drugs, right? Who is actually selling the drugs? Is it the pharmaceutical companies? Like, This morning, did somebody show up from like a pharmaceutical rep? Did they show up and say, hey, you're going to need to take this supplement, or hey, here's a really specific drug that's going to help you out? No, they did not. They're not selling directly to you at all. Is it the pharmacies? Like, did you go to the pharmacy and like the person from behind the pharmacy come out and like walk up and down the aisles with you and help you pick out things? No, not at all. The person or people that are selling all those drugs are the doctors. And what we should be doing is we should be looking at what's going on there, because there is a really big opportunity here for you when it comes to cybersecurity if you look at it this way. And the first step, the first key thing is you have to ask yourself, do you go through and buy every drug in the pharmacy? Like, do you actually go through and like purchase everything you see? Now, I know some people that do that, but most people don't. Most people are not like, yes, I'm going to go through and just take every single drug. What they do instead is they make an appointment with their doctor. They go and they see their doctor maybe for an annual checkup. The doctor comes out and meets with them. They listen to their heart. They might ask them questions about things like, how do you feel? How have you felt? Are you tired? It seems like you're runny nose, your nose is runny. Are you sneezing a lot? What's going on? They ask you questions to help you understand and help them understand how you're feeling. Then they take you and send you to a little area where they pull some blood out. Then they submit that blood to an independent lab who goes through and analyzes your blood and figures out what's going on. At that point, they send the results back to the doctor who sits down with you, reads through the results, and gives you a prescription, or at least tells you about what types of health risks are at stake. So I want you to think about that process for a second. It starts with the test, the results, the prescription, and that all leads to physical health. The same thing can be applied when it comes to security. We start with the assessment. Somebody goes through and assesses the environment. The independent lab goes through and looks at the report and creates a list of exposures. Then the security doctor goes through and prioritizes those exposures for remediation, and that becomes cyber health. So the key is not to start by trying to push the whole pharmacy. In fact, don't even offer anything except the exam. That's where the doctor starts, and that is how you can become the most successful too. Offer the exam. And your exam is that independent security assessment. Now, what you should also think about is the doctor. How often do you see your doctor? I see mine once a year. When it comes to somebody's cybersecurity program, they're probably going to want to see the doctor once a quarter. And you might want to change the way that you're presenting something like your QBRs or TBRs. Actually, hit me on chat. If you're using a QBR or a TBR and you're getting them done every single time, hit us in chat. We want to know who you are, because we want to ask the rest of the people, like, how the hell do you get this done? We want to know how you make that happen every single time. Because here's the thing. Sometimes your clients don't want to meet with you. Have you ever had that happen? Like, your clients are not just like, no, I don't think so. I don't think this quarter, maybe I'm too small. Maybe you should just come back once a year. If you make a subtle change and you turn it into a quarterly cybersecurity briefing, try that. It will change everything for you. And what you can do is when you sit down with them, if you're repeating it every quarter and you go through and you share that independent assessment every single quarter, they get value. They get value because things change. Like, think about it. Their environment might change. They might add new systems. The threat landscape's always changing. So that's something you can talk about. Their personnel, like maybe they added a new employee and they got onboarded. Were they properly onboarded? Were all the steps taken? Was that individual's permissions properly shared so that they can go through and do their job? And think about it. Admins make changes. They even make mistakes. And then finally, if you're doing this on a quarterly basis, your client can start to see progress. And you can repeat this every quarter, and that's just like going to the doctor. Now, that works for clients, but it also works for prospects. In fact, we have a very simple sales process, and I'll just put it here on the screen so you guys can see it. It's super simple. It starts with an incoming lead. Okay, so first off, that's not our gig. Like, we're not the marketing people. If you want to get somebody to go through and get an assessment, there's a campaign that you're going to want to get. It's called the Closer Look campaign, but it's a special one. It's called Galactic Closer Look campaign. We went through and we sponsored that campaign last year. And I've heard a lot of people tell us that the results are really, really good from that. So you're going to want to get that campaign. You'll work with Robin's team. They'll make that all happen for you. And then you're going to go through and you're going to get people to call your office and say, hey, I want to get started. That marketing bit, that's a key piece. But once they contact your office, you're going to figure out what's going on. So you're going to ask a couple questions. You're going to find out who they are, the name of their organization, how many devices they have, what their environment looks like, and what's going on. You want to drive into why now. Some reason this person picked up the phone and said, yes, I'm going to submit myself to figuring out what's going on in the environment. And there's a story there, and you're going to want it. While you're on that first call, you're going to schedule them into a 26-minute phone call. And when you get that 26-minute phone call scheduled, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to send over a credibility email that includes a non-disclosure agreement. That non-disclosure agreement is really important for a couple of reasons. The most important one is the next step, which is you're going to get on the phone with them. You're going to ask them questions that uncover risk. And if you haven't already gotten them to approve a non-disclosure or they haven't seen one, they're going to be a little worried about going through and doing that. Now, while they're on that 26-minute phone call, one of the things you're going to do is you're going to send them an email with a link in it. And you're going to have them click that link. Then my team is going to go through and we're going to analyze their environment while you're on the phone. So you don't have to even leave your office. Then you're going to have them share that with a few other people if they want to on their team. And the last thing you're going to do before you get off that 26-minute phone call is you're going to set up a time to do the readout. Now, you're probably wondering, why am I making it so that every step leads to the next one? Well, the answer is you don't want to start and stop your sales process. If by the end of the 26-minute phone call, you say, okay, we'll call you back when we have the results, then you're not going to be able to already have that next meeting scheduled. So that's how you keep this moving. And why is this so successful? Like, why do we have partners saying that they're at 100% close rate and stuff like this? And the answer is very simple. Prospects need a third-party evaluation of their environment. They need the validation that the things in their environment is working right. They're concerned that maybe not all of their solutions are doing what they think they are, and they have really no way to measure those results. And so therefore, they're very interested in what you have to bring, that closer look, that examining glass to see what's going on. And obviously, you wouldn't want to do it yourself because there's a small conflict of interest there, right? So if you were to do the analysis yourself and point out all the problems and then try to sell them the solution, they're left thinking, does this stuff really matter? Or are they just trying to, win my business, right? So ultimately, with your prospects, it does a number of things for you. It makes it easy to get your meetings. It increases your close rate, and it even gives you an immediate recurring revenue opportunity. And it's a very high margin one. Let me just go through it with you real quick. Imagine that you're talking to a prospect and you present the solution, and your solution includes a recurring third-party assessment, and they're not ready. They don't move forward with you yet. They are still in a contract for another 90 days, or maybe they're in a contract for another 2.5 years and they just realized it, right? Like, I've been there. I know that shit happens. And when it does, imagine being able to just sell them the recurring assessment so you can sit down with them every quarter and generate new sales opportunities inside that organization. That's what our partners are doing right now. And that's how you can handle these prospects. Now, on the existing client side, guys, on the existing client side, we're talking high margin, low revenue work here. Basically, you go through, you deploy our agents, and we'll analyze that environment for you every single month, and every single quarter we'll do a pen test for you, and we'll give you those results that allow you to, one, check off some boxes when it comes to compliance, and two, it allows you to ask for referrals. It gives you an opportunity to meet with them with that quarterly cybersecurity briefing, and it defends against poaching. What do I mean by that? Well, think about it. If you show up and you're, oh, I don't know, checking in with one of your clients and they've not had a third-party assessment and somebody else offers them one before you get around to it, they might take it from the other person. And so what this allows you to do is allows you to come in and you get to read out the report, you get to stay in the trusted advisor seat rather than having a competitor show up and do the same thing. Finally, it limits liability, right? So you have a third party analyzing the environment rather than you're analyzing it yourself, which means that, well, many of you don't have a specific audit rider, so you don't have cyber errors and omissions to cover you when you go through that assessment. So guys, that's how you can educate and grow when it comes to your business, if you're educating on risk. So what do you sell them? What do you sit down with them? Well, it's a very simple solution. You have your basic IT, so that's kind of the basic MSP services. Now, this is the commodified area. Many of our partners don't even bother with this area, but you're going to want to have some sort of solution for this segment, okay? What this is the computer janitor, right? The person that's going and fixing computers, updating computers, all of those services that are pretty much commodified at this point. The other thing that you're going to do is you're going to have a recurring third-party assessment. That's where Galactic comes in. So, that's what I'm pitching today. And also you have an advanced security stack. Now that's on top of the basic services. Why is it on top when we look at something like a program like this? Well, the answer is because the higher you are in this stack, the more authority you have. So think about it. If you were selling somebody just advanced security and their basic MSP, the person that was just providing basic services, and yes, we have partners who are out there just selling the advanced security piece, just the high margin component, just the 183% growth component. Just imagine for a minute going through and pointing out an issue with the basic services folks. Like, let's say you say, it doesn't seem like they're getting the patches out on time. Ooh. Do you think they're going to listen to you, or do you think they're going to listen to the basic services guy? They're going to listen to you because you're higher in the stack. The next one above that is compliance as a service. Your solution should have a compliance as a service offering inside of it. And when you do that, basically what that becomes is the next level up above advanced security. So let's go through and talk about how that might replace something below it. So for instance, if you're doing compliance as a service, you could say, we need a SIM, and your current advanced security solution isn't bringing a SIM, or it's not providing the details we need. Now you're in control of both the basic IT and the advanced security. Do you see how climbing the stack is important? It gives you more authority. The next one is vCISO services. This is the pinnacle. This is the very top. This is the executive. This is that trusted security doctor. The question is, why is this so important? And the answer is very simple. We turn the conversation into one that is about a solution and about protections from risk and about cyber health versus dollars per user or dollars per endpoint. And it also allows you to go through and do things like differentiate, advise and educate, and ultimately elevate. Now, here's the key though. If you look at pharma, if you look at big pharma, they didn't just go after like one or two. The way to be successful at this is to scale. It's to go through and come up with a way that you can build momentum and not have to add 10 people every time you add 10 new clients, right? So that's the key component of growing your MSP. Trust me, I've been there. If you're going from 5 million to 8.5 million, you don't want to have to add 30 people to your team. You want to be able to do it by just adding 3 or 4. And that's the key piece here. And how do you scale? Well, there's one key piece to that, which is verticals. And I know that Robin's talked about verticals a number of times. I see her on stage all the time talking about this. Here's the thing. From a marketing standpoint, it is fantastic. That's the right way to go. It totally makes sense. But also, from a trusted advisor standpoint, if you're going to be that vCISO, if you're going to be that compliance as a service or that advanced security piece, when you have expertise in their business goals and challenges, when you understand how to deliver those services to them, and when they see the results and start referring you to other people in that vertical, it creates a lot more scalability, makes it a lot easier for you to get prospects and a lot easier for you to grow. And ultimately, like I said earlier, allows you to have vertically oriented marketing. And finally, it allows you to build your brand in that particular vertical. So let's just take a look at some verticals here. You know, we have things like finance, CPA, CFPs, credit unions, healthcare, medical practices, outpatient service surgery, maybe construction, general contractors, trade folks, things like manufacturing. So we've got pharma, industrial, public sector. Maybe you have state and county or local agencies, and finally education. These are all different verticals. But when I talk about verticals, I like to dig into the ones that are most regulated. So finance and healthcare become very interesting from this perspective. And if you take a look at something like FTC safeguards and the recent change that just came through, excuse me, you run into a situation where now all of a sudden you have a great opportunity. So, excuse me. I'm just going to pause for a second, have a coughing fit over here. Tanya, like, say something funny.
Funny. I will say Bruce has actually been at our MSP Launch Academy earlier. So he's been on stage all day. So the fact that he's still going is pretty impressive.
It's like the Energizer rabbit. Sorry about that, guys,
Yeah,
just for some reason. So anyway, so the key piece, you identify the verticals. I like the ones with the most compliance. The reason is because if you take a look at something like FTC safeguards, all of a sudden you get in a spot where, well, they have to do some stuff. And if they have to do some stuff, it makes it easy for you to point those things out. Now, you don't want to be that person that's like riding in the car saying you're speeding. That's different. I want you to think about this. So if you have a significant other and you're driving in your car and they point out, they're like, hey, you're speeding. Like, what's your immediate reaction? I can tell you what mine is. It's not very pretty. It's usually starts with an F. And so what happened there is they pointed out that you were breaking the rules. They pointed out that you're breaking the law. Now, I'm going to give you another scenario. You're driving along, speeding. I always speed, so that makes sense. And your significant other goes, there's a cop up here, I see him. And you slow down. Do you end up swearing at your significant other for that one? No, because they were pointing out a risk to you rather than the fact that you were breaking the law. And that's what you're going to do here. You're going to figure out different verticals that have laws in place, and then you're going to point out the risks associated with them. Okay, so as you're going here, you figure out how to make that happen, and you get to a spot where they're going through and doing the things. But here's the problem. If we look at these verticals, healthcare, finance, way too big. I want you to further define your target. I want you to dig in and get very specific. So for instance, law firms specializing in family law, that's more of a vertical. That's getting a little bit more specialized. That's looking better to us. But if we dig in a little bit further with 25 to 100 attorneys in 2 or more locations, now we have a very specific target. And now we have very specific messaging around running multiple business locations, et cetera. Another example, hospitals with 100 beds. Now we're starting to get smaller. More than 100 beds is a smaller group of hospitals than all hospitals, right? That have high reputational specialties. Now talking about a handful of hospitals that we're working with. So how do you go through and do this? Well, there's one other area where there are some rules in place. There's one other area where compliance is kind of interesting, and that's cyber insurance. So what do I mean by that? Well, here's the thing. If you think about cyber insurance, the person, your client or your prospect, they went through and they filled out a self-assessment questionnaire, or somebody on their team did. They made some commitments. Those commitments are now rules that they have to follow. And if they don't follow them, well, they might not qualify for coverage, or even worse, they might not get a claim paid. I want you to imagine being able to create evidence that they're following all of those different rules with like one button, with a compliance management type solution. That's where the compliance as a service component comes in and becomes a really good opportunity as you're going through and building this. Now, what is the opportunity? Well, the opportunity is annual recurring revenue. All of the different things that I talked about in that stack were not projects. They were not professional services. They're not single time jobs. They're not cocaine money. And I mean cocaine money in the way of like, you get the money in. I ran an MSP. I know what it's like. You do a project, you get the money in, you get a $150,000 project, you get it done, you get the money, you have a good time, and it's gone. No, I'm talking ARR. I'm talking good, healthy ARR. That becomes valuation. That becomes growing your business more and making it so now you're in a much better spot when it comes to your organization. Now, if you want to go through and do this, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take a look at, I know a number of you are already partners out there. We're doing a program called the ARR Moonshot 2024. We're going to go through and we're going to spend 4 hours building out your compliance as a service program. Why is that important? Well, I just went through it. If you're focused on healthcare, or you're focused on finance, now all of a sudden you got a huge opportunity coming across the table, which is compliance. Also, any of your clients that have cyber insurance, or any of your prospects that have cyber insurance in place, compliance as a service is a great opportunity for them too. So now you have that extra layer in your security program. The next session that's part of the ARR Moonshot 2024 is an advanced security stack workshop that's going through and helping you build out your advanced security program, piece by piece, component by component, linking those back to the controls and standards that you'll need in order to grow your business, okay? In order to make sure that when you make a decision, you have evidence for that particular decision. Now, the last thing that this ARR Moonshot includes is a vCISO training program. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to get to the very, very top, the pinnacle of your security program. And ultimately, why is this going to work? Why is this going to grow your business? Well, it's very simple. We know the risks are real. We know the cops are out there. And I know, like, some of you, somebody's going to be on chat. They're going to say, you know, Bruce, the HIPAA police are not going to pull over my client, and they know it. Well, here's the thing. When does the HIPAA police show up? I know, I've been there. We did incident response. They show up during an incident. They show up at a ransomware incident. Why? Well, because you're 18 more times likely to have a ransomware event than you are to get a speeding ticket. So they don't have to like sit along the road and wait for you to screw up. All they have to do is wait for the bad people to figure out a way in and then ask some questions. So the risks are real. And you can prove it if you do something like a third-party assessment. And what I was saying earlier is you're really going to want to talk and think about going through and getting started on that ARR Moonshot. Now, if you just want to do the compliance as a service workshop, this is a link to just get to that. It's CAS workshop. It's off the Galactic Scan site. It's November 16th. We start at 1 p.m. We go to 5 p.m. If you're a partner, shoot me an email and I will get you a code to get in without having to pay for it. If you're not a partner, it's super inexpensive. It's like $1,297, okay? So this is a great opportunity because we're going to go through, we're going to walk you through the process. We'll give you the sales tools, okay? So we've gone through and we've actually been able to build out a number of different statements of work that will sell compliance as a service, that make it very, very easy. We'll even go through and teach you how to price your solution and package your solution so you can sit down and you have everything that you need. And if you talk to the folks at TMT, they have a compliance as a service marketing campaign that you can go and use. Now, it's not one we sponsored. There's a couple of different ones out there. You'll have to pick one, but that's something that you can do. And this allows you to grow your MSP, grow your ARR, and get to that very top of the advanced security program. Now, guys, these are all really positive motivations. Like, I'm talking about making more money. I'm talking about growing your MSP. I'm talking to you about how to become better. There are also negative motivators. And what do I mean by a negative motivator? Well, negative motivators are like getting that speeding ticket. They're like things that when they happen, you're like, oh shit, I wish I would have done something a little bit different. And I just want to share with you one of them. So I got a call from one of our partners. This was 2 Mondays ago. And she's really concerned because she's thinking she's about to lose her biggest client. Now, I don't think she's going to, but she's really concerned about it. Here's what's happened. You see, she was just selling them basic IT services. They think of her as the janitor. When there's a problem with the computers, they call her. When there's an issue with updates or something not working the way they want it to, they call her. Her team fixes it. She says they have really great service. I believe her. She's a really nice person. And I guarantee that she spent a lot of time putting process in place to make sure that her clients get amazing service. Here's the problem. A new MSP showed up calling themselves an MSSP, and they offered advanced security, compliance as a service, and recurring assessments. Okay, so they went in and they provided those very simple things. And her client bought the package. And what she's concerned about is, how does she make sure she stays in her current seat? How does she, and what she wanted to do, she really wants to know is, how does she get to the vCISO spot so she can be in charge of the entire stack? But she's never provided the client even a statement of work that includes those other pieces. And the question was, what can I do now? Like, what can I do? How do I get to that top spot? And this sucks, but the only thing I can think of that she can do would be to turn back the clock, sit down with her client, have a cyber security briefing, go through the risk in their environment, maybe read out a third-party analysis, and point out all of the things that are not where she wants them to be, mention that her basic IT program doesn't include advanced security, provide for them a proposal that includes advanced security, compliance as a service, and vCISO services, just so they can say no, because they will, probably, they're gonna say no. And then the event will happen, that thing will happen, whatever it is, they'll make them think, oh, maybe I need to invest in this. In this case, it was the FTC safeguards update that changed it from 5,000 to 500 records. Now, all of a sudden, she's interested. She's like, oh, I gotta get this done. So you have a decision that you can make today. It's a very simple decision. You can grow and educate. Like, you can go through and you can talk to your clients. You can go through and get third-party analysis done inside of those environments. You can show them that they are only buying basic services right now and that you really recommend these other components. This way they know that they're not getting those things from you right now, and you can move forward, or you can do nothing. And the choice is really up to you. Like, this is a decision that you get to make right now. So these are kind of the negative motivators. And the other thing that I want to mention is, how would I go through and do this? Like, if I were running my MSP right now, the first thing I would do is I'd pick out my most important clients and I would start with them. And that's what I want you to do today. I want you to think about, who are your most important clients? Who are the ones that if they left, you'd be pissed? Who are the ones that maybe they're the biggest clients that you support? Or maybe they're the ones that they do everything that you say, they completely trust you, and they're going through and they're investing in cyber insurance, they're doing all the steps that you know are the right steps, but you've not had a conversation with them about additional services like compliance as a service, or something like advanced security, or maybe vCISO services. And they kind of think you might be doing those things. If you don't believe me, if you're thinking, oh, I'm not sure, like, let me give you an example. So for a second, just for a second, I want you to think about this. How many of your clients think that when an emergency happens, you have a written plan just for them that's going to help them recover their business, right? How many of your clients think that? Well, probably all of them. But have you ever offered to write an IR plan for them? Have you ever offered to go through and build that out and create things like the communication plan that goes with that, the eradication steps that your team is going to have to take, but also the steps that their team is going to have to take in order to do things like work with each other when all the systems are offline? Have you had that conversation with them? If not, they just assume you're doing all of those things. And that's where the risk comes in. So first, identify those biggest, most important clients. And the next step after you do that is simple. I want you to go through and I want you to think about how to keep them your clients. And the answer here is very simple. You protect them from being poached. You protect them from taking a third-party assessment from one of your competitors. Because if you think about it, your clients they're kind of somebody else's prospects, right? And so what you can do is you can sell them an independent third-party assessment that happens every month and every quarter. And we'll go through, we'll do that analysis for you. This allows you to demonstrate progress, like I mentioned earlier. It keeps you in the trusted advisor seat because you're bringing the results. You brought the third party in. And even if we find something, like a lot of folks ask me, they're like, Bruce, you know what? What if you come in and what if you find something bad and it backfires, it blows up in my face and I lose my client? Guys, we have the talk tracks for you. We've seen it all. In fact, one of our partners, their largest client, we were doing an analysis for them, their largest client, the CEO got a new laptop and they forgot to load their advanced security stack on that CEO's laptop. You know what? They have a stronger relationship now with that client than they did before we found that issue and shared that with them. They were able to fix it. They talked to the CEO. They said, here's what we did. Third party found this issue. We addressed it for you already. It's already taken care of. We even ran it down. We figure out what happened. There's a problem with their script. They had a new RMM that they had installed and they hadn't gotten through all the different scripts for onboarding. And they went through and explained how they're going to keep it from happening again. The client was super ecstatic that they took the time to go through and get the third-party assessment, that they didn't just let the risk sit out there, that it was found and fixed. That's the type of stuff that we're helping you have the conversations with your partners and clients on. And guys, last thing that I'll mention here, just one last time, if you're already a client and you want us to go through and you want to learn about doing this ARR program, shoot me a quick email and I will get you into that session. Okay, so I'll get you into that session and I'll get you the little coupon code. Now, if you're not a client and you're wondering about like going through and what it might be like to have a third party analyze one of your clients, or what it might be like to get your MSP analyzed, we can go through and we can do an analysis for you. We'll actually go through and we will demonstrate how our system works. So you can kind of see like what the reports look like and stuff like this. It's a group meeting. So we'll go through, we'll do the analysis on your environment. We'll bring you into a group meeting with 8 to 10 other MSPs. We'll go through your results with you and their results at the same time. Your data will be completely obfuscated, but here's the cool thing. You get to see what other MSPs are doing and how you rank up against them and which tools are working and which ones aren't, right? First front row seat. And we'll end up sending you the full report of your data afterwards. So if that's something that's interesting to you, www.galacticscan.com/third-party. Now, when I was running my MSP, I just want to mention this. I ended up paying to have a pen testing company come in and do an analysis for us. Now, we had to do that because we were working with hospitals, we were doing incident response. We absolutely had to eat our own dog food. And they came in and they found a few things. And guys, this is the issue. You can pay $10,000 and you can have somebody come in and do that type of analysis. And they're going to concentrate on things around your perimeter. They're going to concentrate on whether they can get in or not. They're going to concentrate on the one little hole that they find and get into your system. Okay, you can do that. You could also start with this analysis where we will come in and do similar steps for free, and we do it from a zero trust standpoint. So we're not using an antiquated perimeter standpoint. We're doing it from a zero trust. What would happen if somebody on your team clicked a link? That's what we turn over for you. So if that's something that's interested to you, again, www.galacticscan.com/thirdparty. All right, Tanya, do we have any questions out there? How are we doing?
Yes, we do. So Sarah wants to know how to obtain the code that you mentioned to attend the CAS workshop for free.
Yeah, Sarah, just shoot me an email. And my email address, I think Tanya might be able to put it in for me. It's bruce.mccully@galacticadvisors.com, and I can get you that code. And that'll get you through for free. Okay. And you know what? If you're not a partner and you decide you're going to do the analysis, like this analysis, I'll get you a free code too. So if you're interested and you do the analysis, we'll go through and get you one of those as well. So just email me and we'll make that happen.
We had a lot of people ask if this is going to be recorded. It is. It is in process of recording right now. We are going to be sending this out, so we will email you a link. So if you registered for, that's the only way you could have, you will get a link for it. We've got John. We are not a partner, but would be very interested and would be very interested in the coupon and learning more. The zero trust is very interesting. We've been using PC Magic and Fortinet right now.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. And so one of the things, John, and you know this, but I'm just going to mention it for other people on the call. One of the things that you're going to run into is you're going to run into a situation where your client may give you pushback on a zero trust tool. They may be like, oh, I don't know if I want to roll that out in my environment, or I don't like the hassle of having to ask the service desk to get something approved or something like this. And having this type of analysis done allows you to show them what's at stake. It allows you to show them what's going through and what would happen if an attacker got past certain different layers in the environment. So it's a really effective way to help remind people and help drive them over towards that security-minded area where they're ready to consider risk. Because if you think about it, this took me forever to figure out, guys. Here's like the knowledge bomb. So everything else, if you don't remember any of that stuff, this is the one thing. People don't invest in security because it's the right thing to do. Like, think about the doctor. You're not going to go to the pharmacy and buy a particular pill because you think it's the right thing to do. The reason that people invest in security is for protections from risk. And if they don't understand that risk, like if they don't know that it exists, and you don't have a credible way of showing that risk exists, and like doing a vulnerability assessment, or maybe even, you know, showing up with a pen test that you did yourself, isn't a credibility enhancer for you. It doesn't show them risk. It shows them what you could get to, but they think, oh, he has keys to my network. Of course he can get to this stuff. So what it all comes down to is having a way to demonstrate risk. And the easy way to do that is to have a third party point out where the risks are at. And that helps you educate them, and it helps them get to a spot where they're ready to invest because they understand what's at stake.
Perfect. David wants to know if you can, and you're talking a little bit about that, to speak a bit on the zero trust aspect. We're using Threat Locker. So to what degree must we lower defenses so that Galactic analysis can be executed?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple things that you would have to do in a Threat Locker environment. First, if you're a partner, we do have a link that you can use to get around Threat Locker. Okay, it doesn't. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not going to tell you that like we go head to head with Threat Locker and get around them. What I'm going to tell you is it's very simple. There's a very simple tactic to go through and get past Threat Locker, and it is, number one, run the analysis on every computer. Okay, usually, and I hate to tell you all this, but usually somebody hasn't installed it and enforced it on every device. So that's a super simple first step. The second step is you simply take a computer into the environment, and we have an executable called Wormhole that will go through and it will bypass all of the controls and access from the network side. So very, very simple method from that perspective. Now, if you have threat lockers, like they have some network zero trust stuff, if you start implementing those things, it will protect the workstations, but it still allows you to go through and show a lot and demonstrate a lot of risk, like copiers, printers, phone systems, et cetera. So that's the easy way around that. Now, the other thing that we have our partners do, and this is really important, is something I would consider if I were you. We actually have them when we do the recurring assessments. We call them level 3 versus level 1. So level 1 is when we send the link. Level 3 is when there's an agent installed. But with the level 3 assessments, we have them actually recognize our executable. And why is that? Well, one of the attack vectors that we should all be thinking about and all be concerned about is supply chain. And in that case, a supply chain attack will already be approved by ThreatLocker. They're going to use tools that are already whitelisted. For example, when we were working in hospitals, a lot of hospitals have application control. This was before ThreatLocker, but they were using application control solutions from Microsoft, actually. And a lot of organizations were implementing those. And here's the thing that we would see. The attackers would use something like a remote access tool, like maybe an RMM that's already in the environment. And then they would simply rename that executable to something that matched up with one of the automatically starting services. And they're off to the races with the already approved executable. And here's the other piece. The SOC that was monitoring those environments had no idea because it's traffic they already expect. So what I'm suggesting is zero trust is not one level. ThreatLocker or Computermatic or PCmatic, these are not zero trust. They are enforcing application control. But zero trust is a much, much more vast implementation than just application control.
Awesome. So Lonnie wants to know, tomorrow you have a session on Client Watch. How is that different from what was presented today?
So, and maybe we can drop this in the chat too. It's www.galacticscan.com/Friday. And this is what they're talking about. We have a monthly session where we talk about what our partners are doing when it comes to communicating risk to their clients. Tomorrow's session, I'm not even on. I think it says I'm presenting, but I'm going to be in an airplane. The session is actually being run by Lindsay. I don't know if you have seen Lindsay before. She's great. She used to be a news anchor here in Nashville, and her beat was, think about it, who would I want to hire? Absolutely. She was that person that looked for scams and all the consumer protection stuff, right? So she did that beat for a very long time. And she's going through and talking to a number of our partners about what they've done. She's interviewing them, and she's going to be going through those interviews and talk about what they've done to really get to a spot where they're improving their ARR and reducing their risk. That's what that session is on. And we go through how to go through and sell it and all of those different pieces. A lot of detail I couldn't get into here because today's session is more about going through and building that advanced security program and making sure you're offering those different levels up, even if you don't have any chance in hell that they're going to buy them, because it's so important that they understand that they exist.
Perfect. That's galacticscan.com/Friday, right?
Yes. Thank you.
I'll put that out there. The next question that we have is, I'm a one-person MSP wanting to grow, but can't afford the high-dollar solutions. What budget-friendly solution is available for me to get started to provide the assessments?
Yeah, so gosh, I can tell you that we're a high-dollar solution. Okay, so that's one thing I'll just mention for folks on a call. We end up for like a one-person organization, our standard Galactic Watch is about $1,000 a month, so it's a pretty big investment. We do have a special program that we do with over half of our partners actually do it, which saves you about $5,000 a year. So it gets it down to more like around like $500 a month for that size organization, but still it's a pretty big investment. Here's what I would recommend. I would recommend going through and putting together a risk assessment, like a piece of paper. Okay, I mean, that's the cheapest solution that I can come up with. Put together a piece of paper, and when you sit down for that 26-minute phone call that I was talking about earlier, you're going to ask a number of questions. I'm just going to go through 4 of them with you really quickly. The first one is, what types of sensitive information are you working with? Okay, do you guys take credit card numbers, social security numbers? Do you do wire transfers? And just ask that one question. That's going to get them to start thinking about risk. It's going to also show that you understand business, because ultimately when it all comes down to it, anybody can fix computers. If you want to grow your MSP, go up the stack, get to those trusted advisor levels of the stack, like the vCISO level. And you don't even have to go and sell a vCISO services. You can just do some of the things a CISO would do, which is to talk about risk and ask about risk. So first question, what types of sensitive information do you have? Second question, what kind of commitments have you made to vendors, patients, or clients? Okay, we want to know what kind of commitments you've made, because that's going to allow us to now leverage those commitments and understand the risk. They're going to say, well, I have this one contract, get copies of those. Say, okay, I like that contract. I'd like to get a copy of it. I'll analyze it for you. And we can talk about what you're doing today. The next question, very simple. Do you have cyber insurance? I talked about that earlier. It's being a really good compliance as a service opportunity. And so that would be the next step that you could go on to. And then finally, the last question is super simple. And it is, what types of different policies and procedures have you put in place inside your organization to protect this sensitive information? And you have a list of the sensitive information that they already went through, so you're going to ask them each one, and that's going to flesh out a report. Now you can type up a report. It'll take you maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, and that will be what you can use to go through and have a meeting with them following up, talking about risk in their environment. The last thing that I would do is I would sit down at one of their machines. There's a number of different tools out there. Specifically, just do a little bit of research, but there's a free software. I can't think of the name of it today for some reason, but there's a free software that will list out all of the different software installed on a computer, and you can save that to your cloud, whatever you want. Like, just basically it's going to give you a list of all the different things that are installed on the device. Just get that information and then take that back with you, and then go through that with a highlighter and highlight the things that are security related, and also make the comment when you meet with them, hey, I was able to run this executable on your computer, and I was able to do that without approval from your IT department or approval from anybody on your team. So that means anybody in your company could do the same thing. So that's how I would start the conversation for free. And then come and buy our product. Very simple. I mean, after you've sold 3 or 4 of those.
That's awesome. I don't see any other questions in here unless somebody wants to throw one in real quick. That was great. Thanks for putting that together at the end. Yep, I think we're good, Bruce. Again, this recording is going to go out. You guys will all get emailed that. Anything else, Bruce, that you have? Do you want me to do a poll?
No, I'm good. Oh, you can do the last poll that you mentioned about, like, is anybody interested in possibly working with me, something like that. That sounds great. And then I think one QA just popped in. I'm not sure, but a little red box just showed up on my side.
Any bourbon recommendations?
Oh shit. I'm an Angel's Envy guy. So that would be the path I would go down, folks. Angel's Envy all the way. Yeah. Make it a great day, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.